Yeah, how this story has gripped the world. It's incredible. Good morning. I see we have our Honorable Prime Minister Mark Anthony Phillips. Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Giddens, and good morning to all other members and here today with us.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Well, definitely. Thank you for your time. PM Phillips, if you don't mind me calling you PM, just so we could, keep going and
Okay.
the formalities are very important. So, PM Phillips, one of the most trending stories in the Guyanese diaspora and the world is Adrianna Younge, her tragedy. The loudest cry is justice for Adrianna. It's been 14 days since Adrianna's death. Are there any new leads or details that you can tell us about?
Thank you for having your program. First of all, I would like to start by again expressing our collective sympathy to the family of Adrianna Younge for the tragic manner in which she lost her life. Right. This is an incident that has really, as you truly mentioned, gripped the nation and Guyanese in the wider diaspora. As a father of girls and a grandfather of girls, I feel a sense of loss here too. And like our president, who had already announced that we will leave no stone unturned to get down to the bottom of this whole issue. As you're aware, we had the post-mortem, and we had 3 pathologists who conducted the post-mortem, and in keeping with the wishes of the family, we had independent pathologists who came. My understanding, 2 of them came from America, and 1 was from Barbados. So the 3 pathologists did their work, and the conclusion is that she died by drowning or from drowning. However, as a government, we've already committed, and I wish to tell you that the investigation is ongoing to determine the manner of death. Very important.
Also, PM Phillips, as you spoke about the pathologists that came to Guyana, South America, to reveal exactly, well, not exactly how Adrianna died, what was the cause of death, and so forth. We didn't get a chance to hear from none of those medical professionals who would really be able to give you the different angles and the dynamics of how and why she died. Is there any press conference at any point in time scheduled for the pathologist to speak directly to the people so they could have an idea of what happened? Might you be able to elaborate on that?
Well, the pathologists have all returned to whichever country they came from. I'm not aware of any arrangement to have a press conference by the pathologists, but of course there was an opportunity lost in the sense that while they would have intended to have a press conference at the end of the examination, the whole of Georgetown was in a state of disorder, right? And you would have seen from the footages that even one of the pathologists had to, maneuver through an unruly gathering to get from one part of the building to another part. And obviously that itself would have affected the whole process of having a press conference at the end.
Well, PM Phillips, it's standard operating procedure.
Exactly.
After any procedure is done, the doctors will come to the forefront But so that's behind us. But we're in the age of technology now.
But remember, I want to stop you there. They did had a briefing. The family was present during the post-mortem examination, and the pathologist did had meeting and brief the family. They would have also briefed, like the president had a briefing, the minister of health had a briefing, as a matter of fact, and you would have seen that we had a press conference that was presided over by the president and the minister of health.
Yes, I agree with you. With all due respect to our president, when it comes to anything medical, only a medical person could really speak to exactly what transpired. But I'm sure we have some medical professionals on this platform. We could reconvene on that. Let's talk about the staff and the first police officers on the scene at the Doubleday Hotel. Was there a search, and were their devices seized for evidence? Could you expand or expound on that?
Let me say up front, like you, I agree that there were missteps. They would have had searches. The police would have taken action, but I will not pronounce on that on this program. What I want to assure you that the ongoing investigation would get down to the bottom of everything that occurred, including the searches, what time they were done, right? What was seized, etc. So we have to await the outcome of the investigation. I don't want to prejudice the investigation by offering my views as to whether a search was done or whether it was done properly or not. Let us await the outcome of the investigation.
Okay, PM Phillips says you spoke about missteps. Okay, so I want to ask you directly: did the Guyana police force, did they lie to deceive the public? Okay, you heard a lot of stories about footage of Adrianna entering the Doubleday Hotel, but there was no evidence of her leaving. But one of your commanders, okay, did come forth and said that he had evidence showing that she left the hotel. So this is why we have the discrepancy with the audience and people around the world. Okay, did the Guyana police force lie or try to deceive the family and the nation of Guyana?
There was misinformation in the initial reporting, and perhaps the commander should have done a better job at verifying whatever information is presented to him. Again, you're aware that the commander was relieved of his appointment immediately, and that and other actions by the commander will be part of the investigation.
Thank you. We have an intimate panel. We have Dr. Griffith here with us this morning, and we have two Guyanese medical professionals, born and bred in Guyana, but now residing here in the United States. And I'm sure, I know they want to ask questions, but we'll just keep it around where it is. We just want truth, transparency, because this has really garnered attention from every part of the globe. Welcome in, Dr. Griffith. How are you again this morning? Dr. Griffith, we can see you. Can you hear us? I think we lost Dr. Griffith. When Dr. Griffith comes back in, please pop in. Nurse Patricia Riley. Oh, here he is. Dr. Griffith, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm hearing you, JR. Prime Minister, I want to join with you and others in this program and elsewhere in offering condolence to the family and regret at the tragedy. I very much believe, as I think everyone would agree, that in every episode and every circumstance like this, there are lessons to be learned. And one of the lessons to be learned is the importance of ensuring that there is accountability going forward. One of the lessons to be learned, I think, is to be sure that there is the credibility of the police force that will be restored. Confidence needs to be restored in the police force. And I very much like the pledge made by President Ali last week that as part of the accountability in the building of confidence, there'll be international actors brought in to help with the investigation. But I haven't heard who some of those international actors will be. We've heard that calls were made for the FBI, for Scotland Yard, for the RCMP. My question to you is, can you give us a sense of who from outside of Guyana will be brought in to help the investigation to both establish accountability and to help rebuild the confidence and credibility in the police force?
Thank you for your question, Professor. I think it's a bit too early to tell you who will be the agencies that will come to Guyana. I can assure you that we've already started discussion with our security cooperation partners aimed at getting whatever support, whatever assistance in conducting the inquiry, and also in helping us to progress with the reform measures of the police force coming out of an incident like this. At home, we've already made some changes. And you're quite aware that, on the books, we had this standing operating procedure where 24 hours would have had to pass before, you take any major action on receiving a missing person report. As it is now, we have changed that. Immediately on receipt of a missing person report, the police is now obligated to take action. And not only act alone, but act in an interagency setting with all the other agencies that will able to assist in, like bringing closure or finding the solution, whether it will be rescuing the person or whether it will have to be a recovery operation. And we have seen since that change, incidentally that change took place on a weekend. And since that change, we had 3 incidents of missing person reports, and we were able to solve all 3 cases. So the reform has already started as a result of this incident, but of course there are greater and more strategic things to be done, and we will work with our security partner at the right time, having tied up the arrangements and the commitments from our security cooperation partners. We will make that available to the public as to who are the agencies outside of Guyana, external to Guyana, that will be part of the inquiry, and also that will be part of the reforming of the police force. Because as a government, we remain not only committed to this case in getting to the bottom of it, but to ensure every public agency do their work better today than they were doing it yesterday.
Wonderful.
And the police force is one of the agencies that all Guyanese agree must go through some reform process, especially coming out of an incident like this.
Wonderful. Wonderful. JR, do I have time to pose another issue to the Prime Minister and to get some
Absolutely,
comments?
absolutely.
Prime Minister, you mentioned, I think, quite importantly, the unavailability of the medical personnel because they've returned to their countries of residence. But I want to suggest that with the availability of technology, there still is a possibility as part of building the confidence, part of ensuring that the facts are laid bare. Would it not be feasible to have a virtual press conference? Get those practitioners on Zoom, on whatever platform, to give the assurance, because you see, part of the confidence deficit is people not feeling, both in Guyana and in the diaspora, they're not hearing, to use Guyanese parlance, from the horse's mouth. I'll tell you one thing that I'm regretful that has not happened is the Commissioner of Police and the Crown Chief holding a press conference, laying out the facts. And the absence of those facts from the people at the top, you've got a number of alternative facts from the social media ecosystem. So I think part of the building of confidence is to have people at the top of the police force, people who are in the medical professionals, speak directly. All the facts may not be pleasing, but the facts are there, what they are. So I want to recommend, it's not too late to get a press conference virtual of those medical practitioners, lay the facts out as they are today, but also have periodic press conferences. Commissioner of Police and his team assuring people that here is what it is. We know that there are missteps made along the way, but I think building confidence requires people hearing from the top, not from the political directorate, but from the professional directorate, the police force, the medical practitioners.
Well, Professor, I hear you, and there are good points you're making. The family, if the family so wish, they can make such a request. The pathologists are available. There's a written report that was submitted to the police, and the police can take that report. They can have a press briefing. The police operates independently of government, right? We don't necessarily have to tell the police that they must do a press conference. They're the ones who to determine whether they should do it or not. But I hear you, in the interest of, credibility and, bringing some closure and clearing up any misunderstanding and doubts in the wider Guyanese population, both at home and in the diaspora. I'm perhaps quite aware that the police even themselves are listening to this program, and they might very well, right, be so moved to have a press conference. As a government, we are obligated to ensuring that we have closure to the family and closure to the Guyanese people on this matter. We are more interested in transparency and all the fancy things that we talk about in any incident. We are not interested in the politicization of this incident. So if that is helpful, I'll be the first as Prime Minister of Guyana to say, we are open to every action that will be helpful in the name of transparency, in the name of bringing closure to the family. I'm aware that the family has an attorney. In fact, they have changed attorney, and they have an attorney now who, in today's paper in Guyana, has made a statement that he's gathering information, and he will be making a pronouncement soon. The government remains open to facilitating all corners, all avenues, right, that will bring closure to this incident.
Wonderful.
What we want to appeal to the people is, let us allow the authorities to do their work. Let us allow the investigation to proceed. Government is facilitating. We don't want this thing to be political. I am aware that there are forces in Guyana that has made it political, and there are some other forces that has made it criminal too. Because as you're aware, Monday and Tuesday we had public disorder in Guyana. We had looting, we had mayhem. The police had to come out, and the police had to work, through the night into the next day to restore order. And while there were missteps in Region 3 pertaining to the incident, I want to take the opportunity to publicly commend the Guyana Police Force for regaining order to a disorderly situation that Guyana was in on the conclusion of the post-mortem. The police worked through the night, and they were able, with the Guyana Defense Force to regain control and maintain order in Guyana. And I want to appeal to the people out there. You have a right in a democratic state known as the Cooperative Republic of Guyana to protest peacefully. You do not have a right to get into a state of disorder and damage private property, public property, and public infrastructure. We're not subjects. We're no longer a colony. We're a republic. We're citizens, and citizens have rights and responsibilities. So while at the same time you have a right to protest, you have a responsibility to do it in an orderly, peaceful manner. And as a government, and I'm speaking on my behalf as Prime Minister, we will not condone any public disorder. However, democracy must prevail, and people have a right to peaceful protest.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Prime Minister Phillips, when we talk about protests, whether it's in Guyana or anywhere in the world, a lot of times people are really protesting peacefully, but they're insurgents. They're people that are instigating, not all the time, or in most cases, it's never the protesters. They're always instigators. So you always have to pay attention to what's happening and try to address it from every angle.
You want me to answer that? We're
Yes,
in the age of technology now. We have safe city and safe country in Guyana. It therefore means that we have footages, real-time images, where you're seeing the same peaceful protesters degenerate into a mob and mob behavior. So this whole issue about telling us that, oh, the peaceful protesters were infiltrated by criminals and wrongdoers, that will not necessarily hold in every instance, because the footage do not lie. Those real-time footages, you're seeing the same people who started out peacefully end up degenerating into riotous behavior. So the message is clear. You have a right to peaceful protests. Once you up the ante and it becomes disorderly, we have a responsibility to maintain public order. The political activists, the political players, they're the ones who also have a responsibility not to aggravate these so-called peaceful protesters and get them to behave in a riotous manner. And we have seen political leaders in our country, political activists, right, who are not only part and parcel of leading the protests, but also, they're there, urging them on. We've heard statements, we heard press conferences that you were privy to, right? We have people who claim to be academics and lecturing at big fancy universities in America, who have television programs and are telling the Guyanese people, right, that what the people did there was right and more is to come. As a government, we will not condone that. So I'm saying to all the political actors out there who have an interest in disorder in Guyana, we as a government, we have a responsibility to maintain order in Guyana. And whatever are the agencies responsible for maintaining order in Guyana, they have a right under the Constitution of Guyana to take the necessary actions to maintain order in Guyana.
Prime Minister Phillips, we appreciate everything with this interview. That's why this interview was so important. You heard a lot of stories happening, coming out from Guyana, but unless you're able to speak directly to the people, unless the administration, the present administration comes to the forefront to have conversations about what's going on, people are going to be misled. So, I'm really thanking you for your time today. We have two more guests here before we bring in the parliamentarian, Amanda Walton Desir. Nurse Patricia, what question would you like to ask Honorable Prime Minister Phillips this morning?
Good morning, Prime Minister Phillips, and thank you.
Good morning, Nurse.
I, like everyone else has expressed, this story of Adrianna Younge has really touched me as a mother, as a health professional, and my continued prayers go out to her parents and family. I just want to touch on a couple of things that you said. I appreciate you applauding the Guyana Police Department for the work that they have done in uh, maintaining order, if you will, to the riots and the unruly behavior. Um, but what I want to point out is that that same police force, um, if they had worked expeditiously and dutifully and uh, truthfully in the inception of this scenario where they were informed of this young girl being missing, we probably would not have gotten to the extent of looting and unruly behavior that we saw that ensued as a result of this incident. Because prior to this scenario unfolding, there was none of that behavior. And I truly believe my perception is that, my perspective is that all of this ensued because the Guyanese people became enraged because of, not just because a little girl was missing, but because of, you said misinformation. I call it blatant deceitfulness. I heard earlier in the conversation there were talks about a commissioner or a commander of police who blatantly not misinformed the family but lied. There's footage of him, on his phone telling the family, I have the video of your daughter leaving here. That's not just misinformation. That's blatant disrespect, because to this hour, I think, the public has not seen a footage of that video that he so vehemently claimed that he had on his phone. So just again, as an onlooker, it's not just about misinformation, it's about deceitfulness as well. And a lot of time was lost with that one particular detail that derailed the family from being able to search for their daughter at that hotel. They were derailed from what they could have been doing and could have potentially saved her life. So I just want to emphasize that aspect of the police force. Investigations are happening, but this is the very same force and the same group of people that the Guyanese people don't have confidence in. And so my first question on as it relates to the police force or the police department is, what actions are going to be taken by the Guyana government to ensure that persons who are placed in a place to protect the Guyanese people and to fight for the Guyanese people, what is the vetting process to ensure that these are people of integrity and these are people who are truly going to look after the well-being of the Guyanese people? What changes? I understand that persons have been placed on administrative leave and things of that nature, but what processes have been put in place right now to ensure that this does not continue to happen in the police department?
Well, I've listened to you, Norse, and part of the answers to your question was already given. We've already had a commander who was relieved of his command. We all agree that there were missteps, right? Due to misinformation, the commander was relieved. We have people who were dismissed from the police force. And we've already committed to an investigation of the police force to get down to the bottom. And coming out of that investigation, the report will be a source to guide us in reforming the police force. So yes, there were missteps. There were changes in command. People were sent home or dismissed from the force. And we've already committed ourselves as a government, which will happen in any country by any government, even the United States of America, to have a commission of inquiry to get on to exactly to the bottom of what happened. And the terms of reference will always include, recommendations as to how we can do things better and where we should take reformative action of the police force.
Well, I appreciate your response. I do think, however, there does need to be a press conference, and the professor alluded to this earlier, and I believe your statement was that they are a separate entity. But I do believe that the government of Guyana can stipulate and mandate and uh, uh, require the police department to issue a statement and to have a public a press release, because the Guyanese people have questions similar to the pathologist that the professor mentioned earlier. I think at this point it would be pointless, just in my perspective, to do so now retrospectively. However, I do think that just as a medical professional, I don't think that it was appropriate for, as much as I respect the president of Guyana, he's not a medical person. And so him reading a report does not really give a true picture of the pathology report of the postmortem that was conducted. And so I know this is after the fact, but these, as you said, these are scenarios that we can learn from, so that we can do better moving forward. Hopefully, we do not have a scenario like this moving forward. Which brings me to my next question. Guyana is rapidly developing and growing in terms of resources in recent times. What plans are there to utilize some of these resources to expand our capability, or your capability, to perform diagnostic tests and extensive tests that don't require days to be shipped abroad, etc., in terms of pathology and in terms of diagnosing and really coming up with reasons for situations like Adrianna's death? What plans are there to advance in our diagnostic testing in Guyana?
Well, the last the last point you made there is indeed the question. Before were just opinions, but I will answer the question. You know, what we're doing in Guyana today, we're utilizing the wealth to reform and rebuild and improve everything, every sector in Guyana. And in the area of forensics and forensic sciences, we've invested in purchasing equipment to modernize our forensic lab. And we also have Guyanese who are identified and are currently ongoing training through what is known as ITEC, the Indian Technical and Indian Technical and Education Cooperation Program. We have a number of Guyanese who are undergoing training in forensic science, and we have professors from India who are stationed in Guyana now conducting training for people. So the combination of capacity building and the capitalization, purchasing the equipment that are needed and modernizing the whole facility is ongoing as I speak. So we're getting there where sooner rather than later, we will be able to do those tests in Guyana.
Thank you, PM Phillips. I want to tell the audience we're going to go over a little bit today. This is a very, very, very important edition and segment, and we also have the parliamentarian that's going to come up pretty soon. So please stick with us as we continue to delve into this Adrianna Younge strategy. Listen, Jeff, we have a diverse platform here. Jeff is a white American, Caucasian American, and he would definitely like to ask you a question because, like I said to you earlier, Prime Minister Phillips, this is garnering attention from every part of the globe. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. And JR, I missed last week's, I was sick and I missed the discussion, so I'm a little behind the curve on all of this. But some of the questions I think revolve around the video and the release of the pathology report that the coroners did. Why are they not being released to the public? Am I incorrect in what I'm hearing, that the coroner's actual report was not released in its written form to the public?
The report is with the Guyana Police Force, and only today in today's paper, the lawyer representing the family did mention that he will approach the Guyana Police Force to have that report. So I can tell you the report is with the Guyana Police Force. Procedurally, they would know how they will deal with the report, whether it be published publicly in some, whether it's newspaper or whatever. I don't think that's the way you do it, but the report is there and it's available for whoever has the clearance to have access to that report.
So the parents have seen the report and their attorneys?
It's for the parents. It's for the parents to say whether they have seen the report. What I can tell you that came out in the press conference before is that the pathologists, on conclusion of their work, they had a meeting with the parent, with one of the parents. They had a meeting. So it's for them to tell you if they have a written report. But I can tell you, because I did check before I came on this program, that there is a report that is lodged with the Guyana Police Force.
Jeffrey, yeah.
Go ahead, JR.
PM Phillips, why it's again important that you're here. You hear a lot of reports coming out of Guyana. So is there any truth to Adrianna Younge's body being transported to the U.S. for a second autopsy?
I am not aware of that, of such a request. What I'm aware of is that, as I mentioned, the postmortem was completed. The body is handed over to the family for them to make funeral arrangements. It's for you to approach the family to find out if there's such a request. I am not aware of that.
Before we go over to Amanza, Donatello, you'll get a chance on because we're running a little bit short. You spoke about this situation being politicized. Do you think that Adrianna Younge's death will change the political landscape of Guyana? And why I'm asking that question is because when you look across Guyana, you see all of the schools, starting from primary all the way up to UG, they're honoring Adrianna. And I think it's the first time in decades that you have the Gen Zers leaning in, okay, and paying attention and listening to the messaging. Could you answer that question? Do you think her death is going to change the political landscape of Guyana?
With the passing of young Adrianna, as a people, the world saw us mourning her passing. School children, university children, adults, and as I said before, people not only at home in Guyana, but even people in the diaspora. Her passing and the circumstances surrounding her passing has touched all of us. And all I'm saying, let us not make this political. Let us get down to the manner through the investigation to arrive and understand the manner in which she died. Yes, she died by drowning, but what led to that? I think that's more important for me at this stage as Prime Minister. I welcome the outpouring by Guyanese in the wider diaspora and in Guyana on her passing. Again, I sympathize with the family. Our whole government sympathize with the family. And I want to believe that everybody in leadership position in Guyana also sympathize with this family, as you would have seen. Let us be very objective here and allow the investigation and the investigative process to lead us to a conclusion and to a report with recommendations that we as a government will remain committed to implementing to improve the lot of all the people of Guyana. That is more important to me.
Okay, PM Phillips, I appreciate your answer, but my thoughts are, okay, based on what we're seeing, what we're hearing, when you have young people paying attention to what's going on in any nation, it really and truly makes a difference. And I think there is a lot of impact. And I think that we will see young people being more engaged now. So it's something to pay attention to. I'm going to bring in Dr. Giddings before we bring in Amanda Walton Desir. Dr. Giddings, your question for the Prime Minister.
Good morning, Prime Minister Phillips. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. So a lot of my questions were pretty much answered. They really have no answers right now. I think the final pathology report is still pending on, the laboratory tests that had to be sent out, toxicology, etc. So that's what I was wanting, like a final report. And the fact that that's not back yet, it would give the department, the medical department, the pathological department, another chance in when all the final results come back to have a, as the professor suggested, some sort of a Zoom type meeting to kind of discuss all of those results. Because frankly, you're saying that the report is now with the Guyana Police Force. And that's the same Guyana Police Force that people are distrustful of. So I'm sure that they're not gonna, believe anything that they're intimating or saying. And so basically, until the investigation is done with the manner of death and the final results and all of that to become transparent, I think that's what we are probably going to be waiting for. And you also mentioned that you're not sure who you all have reached out to in terms of the investigative piece, in terms of the FBI or Scotland Yard, et cetera, because, of course, the Guyanese people are not going to believe anything from the police force at this moment because they're distrustful of them. So those are my thoughts going on in my head. The final investigation coming together with manner of death and time sequence and all of that, and all the final reports. So I think that this would be a probably good time to have, some sort of a Zoom report on everything coming together with the reports eventually.
I think I need to come in here and say, I never said we're not sure who's going to do the investigation. I said clearly that the discussions have started, and at the right time, we'll make public who are the agencies and from which country from our security cooperation partners who will be conducting the investigations. So in that case, I'm not sure. Work has started. The discussions with our security partners have started. At the time when we have concretized those decisions as to who and from which country, we will make those information public. The toxicology report, when the report comes, that will complete the report. And whether you like it or not, the Guyana Police Force remains the agency and the custodian of those reports. Okay? So the reports, according to the laws of Guyana, has to be lodged with the Guyana Police Force. Okay? The reports are there. Whoever is acting on behalf of the family and want access to those reports, there's a procedure And once they follow the procedure, they will have access to those reports. It's not a report that you will put on Facebook or you publish, widely on some social media, right? Every country operates like that. And we have to be very careful with the use of social media and the misinformation and disinformation that is allowed on social media too. Okay? This remains a sensitive issue. We have a duty to protect the family too. We sympathize with them. We have a duty to protect them. We have a duty to ensure that they have closure and they could peacefully move on with their lives. So what is the standing operating procedures must be adhered to at all times, with handling reports, handling information, etc. There were missteps. We all agree that there were missteps in Region 3, and we've taken immediate actions to deal with those missteps. And further actions will be taken on the completion of this whole investigation and the submission of the reports with the necessary recommendations. I want to take this opportunity before I leave your program again to appeal to let good sense prevail. Adrianna Younge would have liked us to have order and have good sense prevail throughout this process. Let us not make this thing political. It has gone too far. Let us remain objective. Let's allow the science to do its work, and let us respect the process. That's what my government, and as Prime Minister, I'm saying. We are the facilitators. We are only interested in transparency, and let the chips fall where it has to fall. Don't make this thing political. It has already been made political, and as Prime Minister, I have the floor now. Now I'm speaking on this issue on your program. Thank you for inviting me on your program and giving me an opportunity to speak. Let us keep the politics out of this. The parties on politics.
Yeah, no politics on my front. I'm just thinking about facts, the medical facts, etc. So no politics.
So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for speaking on the facts, but I still have to set the record straight from my perspective and from my government's standpoint.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. We're not hearing him. I think we lost communication with him. Your mic is off. I'm not hearing you.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry about that. There was so much
I didn't
going
hear
on
anything
around
you said
here.
just now. Your mic is off.
Okay, thank you for that. I want to thank you for coming back to the Reset Talk Show and speaking directly to the people. You mentioned there are certain things that it's just not made for social media, but it's made for platforms like the Reset Talk Show and others. So for you to take the time out to come here and give us at least an hour of your time to disseminate information, to give people a clear understanding of where you are, where the government stands, is very important. So we would like you to come back as this case continues. It's going to get bigger based on what I'm seeing and hearing. So we definitely want you to come back to the Reset Talk Show with more information as everything continues to develop.
Well, thank you for having me on your show, and definitely I will be ready to come on your show as more information arises out of the investigation that we've all committed to facilitate as a government. And definitely the leadership of other agencies, as Professor would have recommended, we're open to such suggestions, Thank you for the recommendation, Professor. And we will, as a government, in the interest of transparency, and bringing closure to this whole unfortunate incident, we will take your recommendations on board. And to the nurse and the doctor, we remain open to any suggestions, any recommendations that will further enhance this whole issue of transparency and bringing closure to Adrianna Younge's family. Again, before I leave, my sympathies to the family. We grieve with you. And we will continue to facilitate the investigation and be by your side as we all seek closure as a people, both Guyanese at home and in the diaspora. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister Phillips. Thanks for your time.